John Plummer was a helicopter pilot during the Vietnam War. He helped organize a napalm raid on the village of Trang Bang in 1972, a bombing immortalized by the prize-winning photograph of one of its victims. In the photo, Kim Phuc, a naked 9-year-old girl, burned, crying, arms outstretched, runs towards the camera with plumes of black smoke billowing in the sky behind her. For 24 years, his conscience tormented him. He badly wanted to find the girl, to say he was sorry. On Veterans Day, 1996, John met Kim at the Vietnam Memorial. Kim had come to Washington, D.C. to lay a wreath for peace. John had come with a group of former pilots still searching for freedom from the past. In a speech to the crowd, Kim, now a Christian, said that she forgave the men who bombed her village. John pushed through the crowds and managed to catch her attention. He identified himself as the pilot responsible for bombing her village 24 years before, and they were able to talk for 2 short minutes. Kim saw my grief, my pain, my sorrow. She held out her arms to me and embraced me. All I could say was, I'm sorry, over and over again. And at the same time, she was saying, it's all right, I forgive you. They met again, later the same day, and Kim reaffirmed her forgiveness. They since became good friends and remained in regular contact.
From Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 to 35. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked,
Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?
Jesus answered,
I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Therefore the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold to repay the debt. The servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient with me, he begged, and I will pay back everything. The servant's master took pity on him, cancelled the debt, and let him go. But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. He grabbed him and began to choke him. Pay back what you owe me, he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, Be patient with me, and I will pay you back. But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed and went and told their master everything that had happened. Then the master called the servant in. You wicked servant, he said. I cancelled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you? In anger, his master turned him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you, unless you forgive one another from your heart.
Forgiveness. Forgiveness is never easy, but it is vital. We're all human. We make mistakes and we hurt each other. Lack of forgiveness is the root of so much anger, quarreling, division, slander, gossip, arrogance, and disorder. The teaching of Jesus in this passage is crucial for all relationships. For marriage, family life, church life, relationships at work and in the community, and for our eternal destiny. In this passage today, we see 3 important things about forgiveness. First, unlimited forgiveness is commanded by Jesus. The Apostle Peter presumably had difficult relationships. He asked Jesus how many times he needed to forgive. The contemporary teachers taught that we should forgive 3 times, at most 4, on the basis of the Old Testament book of Amos. The Apostle Peter offers to go further and forgive 7 times. He believed in forgiveness. The people believed in it. Nearly everybody believes in forgiveness. They would say, it's right to forgive, up to a point. But there comes a point where a person's gone too far and we're justified in not forgiving. The radical part of Jesus' teaching is that he requires unlimited forgiveness. This does not mean we condone sin as Christians. There's a place for the law and for justice. The New Testament distinguishes between the actions of the state from our responses in personal relationships. What it does mean is that in our personal relationships, we lay aside all malice, revenge, and retribution. Forgiveness is hard, but it is possible. Second, unlimited forgiveness is a reasonable response to the unlimited forgiveness we've received. A talent was the highest unit of currency, equivalent to 6,000 denarii. The annual revenue from Galilee and Perea was 200 talents. The total revenue for a wealthy province might be 300 talents. 10,000 was the highest Greek numeral, and 10,000 talents was an immense amount, the highest figure imaginable. It was the equivalent for us of untold billions. In the story, the servant was required to sell his family, not just to repay the debt, but also as a form of public humiliation. He pleads for time, which is absurd. He could never pay back the debt. It's the hope of a desperate man. We see in the person of the servant's master what God is like. He does not simply give him time to pay. He's moved to show compassion by cancelling the debt and giving the whole family their freedom. He goes way beyond what's required by showing unlimited forgiveness. Then the forgiven servant finds his fellow servant who owes him 1/600,000th of his debt and aggressively demands payment. In this brilliant short story, we side first with the underdog and then are shown the absurd hypocrisy of a forgiven sinner standing on his rights. Next, we find ourselves accusing not the man in the parable, but ourselves. The only reasonable response to the unlimited forgiveness we receive from God is to forgive others without limit. Third, unlimited forgiveness is necessary if we want to be forgiven. The king turns the unforgiving servant over to the jailers to be tortured. Lack of forgiveness tortures the soul. As is often said, it's like drinking poison in the hope that the other person will die. All it does is to allow them to live rent-free in your head. The clear teaching of the New Testament is that we must forgive. We do not earn forgiveness. It's made possible through the cross. Your willingness to forgive is evidence that you know God's forgiveness. Once you recognize your need for unlimited forgiveness and have received it, you must forgive others from your heart, which means totally. Forgiveness is an act of the will. If there are those whose names come to mind, choose to forgive them, and as an act of the will, release them into God's hands. You'll probably need to ask for God's help. If you're dealing with very painful issues, it may be wise to seek someone in leadership or a Christian who you know and respect to pray with. Ask for God's help to make forgiveness a lifetime habit. You can forgive, not in your own strength, but out of the overflow of forgiveness that God has shown you. Lord, thank you that you do not put a limit on how much you forgive me. Help me to cultivate the same attitude towards forgiving others as you have towards me. Just as I have been forgiven, I choose to forgive.